All right, Sovereign Pete, it's great to see you. Great to be able to actually interact with you because I've been watching all of your videos, and it's like having an old friend on screen, but we've never actually met.
No, we haven't actually met, but it's good to be here.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I came across your work from Lawrence or La Pa, another fellow Bitcoin podcaster, and he had you on his show because we connected, had a few beers together in Bristol at a Bitcoin meetup back in November. And he just was dropping these little nuggets in about, being sovereign. And in the Bitcoin community, which I've got a few things to actually share with you about the Bitcoin community. I don't know how deep down the rabbit hole you've gone or how many touch points you've had. And I
Yeah.
know in your book, by the way, The System,
Oh,
excellent book for those. You've done a great job of destroying the fiat monetary system and
thank you.
explaining exactly what's going on there. So it's really exciting to read that and know that we can talk about almost absolutely anything. But
Yes.
Lawrence was teaching me and a few friends, and we have our own WhatsApp group now, about your work and about actually becoming self-sovereign and having the self-sovereign mindset. Now, there's a little bit of a saying in the Bitcoin community along the lines of, what's the point of having fuck you money if you don't say fuck you? And a lot of us have sovereign money, but and we're probably LARPing on the sovereign mindset side. So finding you is the ultimate puzzle click
Mhm.
because it's like, oh shit, these guys have the sovereign mindset, but perhaps they don't have the sovereign money. Maybe there's a load of sovereigns that haven't yet really started to grok Bitcoin. And
Mhm.
I know for a fact there's a bunch of Bitcoiners that believe they have sovereign money, but they're still paying their taxes and they're still, registering their properties, and they have a loyal title over Bitcoin if they're self-custody. This is huge.
Mhm.
That's amazing. But they do not have a loyal title over anything else. And we probably never even heard of the word or term a loyal title. So we've got so much to get through, Pete. So much.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we
Where do you want
will
to start?
we will try and keep this to an hour and a half, but if you're game after this, we could do a episode 2 or 3. I want to actually put a series together and invite other people in the sovereign
Yeah.
realm to come on and discuss.
Yeah, that'd
Uh,
be fantastic.
so the other thing about the Bitcoin community, which you may or may not know, we we refer to ourselves lovingly as the plebs,
Yeah.
and
Do
there's a
that.
real, when I was going through your courses and you actually realized that, like, the plebtorial system that we live under. So I think that's probably the best place to start and explain
Yes.
to people exactly what this is, because we are the plebs, um, but not in the way that you describe. And when you realize that system, that's really going to start getting people's backs up. And I think
Yes.
what I hope to get from this is action from Bitcoiners, a lot of action, and pushing this really, forward. So start us off, my friend. Why are we plebs?
Well, that's right. Well, simply put, you have no name. So people go, I've got a name. And I go, well, do you have a name? What name are you actually using? And they'll say, well, my surname is this. And I go, oh, so you're using a surname. Well, surname, the word surname is a contraction of two other words, surety, name. And you go, okay, what does it mean to be surety? It means that you are responsible for the debts of someone else. So if someone else does not pay the debt, you're on the hook. So you're surety for the debt. So if you're using a surety name, that means that you are the debtor for whoever you've registered with, which would be the government. So now you've agreed to be the debtor. So that means you are now on the hook to pay the national debt. And obviously, if you're operating within a council's jurisdiction, by the way, no one lives in a council. So if anyone says, oh, I'm not in a borough council, I'm in a parish council, we've lost the game already. You're not. So there can be a council jurisdiction placed upon the land that you live on. If you register with that within that jurisdiction, you are the surety for the debt of that council, meaning you've got to pay the council tax, and you've consented and you've agreed. So this all goes back to, this is going back thousands and thousands of years. This is steeped in culture. and it's from all different lands. So a lot of this stuff is similar. So you've got England. I'm just going to refer to England as the land and not the corporation. You've got the Chinese culture, Japanese culture. There's other cultures all over the world. And it all starts with make a name for yourself. And that is a responsibility of a man. And that when I say a man, you're talking about the male man. So man refers to the species, and a man is the male of the two, the two sexes within that species. You're not human, that's color of man. And if you take that title and you are color of man, then you're a person of color, meaning you have no rights whatsoever. So only man has rights. So a man, as in a male, has to make a name for himself. And this name is normally represented by his house. Now, a house isn't the bricks and mortar. The house is his protection that he gives. So that the name house comes from an old German name, which is Horsan, which basically means protection of the family, my house, my name. It's under my name. I protect my wife, children, etc., all my family members using my name. This name is normally represented by a family crest, coat of arms, and a seal. A man would have his normal seal, which would be his seal of his house, and he would also have his own court seal, because every man has the right to hold court. This is what people have forgotten. Everyone's going to court, and they go, why are you going to court? Whose court is it? And they go, oh, it's magistrate's court. So it's not an actual court of law then, is it? Because that is a corporate administrative court within a corporate jurisdiction. So the average man has lost the knowledge that he should be holding court. Because if you're called to a court, you're summoned to a court, the very first question you should ask is, whose is it? And if it goes, it's Bob's court, I go, oh, yeah, I know Bob. Yeah, we were in a contract. Yeah, and I didn't actually pay him. We'll go, okay, I get it. He's summoning me to his court to sort this out. So if you don't know the name of the court, then you know it's administrative, all of them. So all courts are administrative, Supreme Court, family court. By the way, family court's got nothing to do with the living family or the living father or the living mother. It's to do with the legal family, legal father, legal mother, because they talk of custody. And you go, well, hang on a minute. Whoa. If you're the natural father, you don't have custody of your boy and girl. Only a custodian has custody of the boy and the girl, meaning they don't own the boy and the girl. It's not theirs. They just have authority over them. So the plebtorial system. Because you are without name, you do not have a name, you do not have an estate. Because you do not have a name, you do not have an estate, you do not have a name to put on your belongings. So your house does not have your name on it, so you don't own it. Your car does not have your name on it, because if you look on the logbook, it's a registered vehicle, and your car is registered, and it says registered keeper. And what name have you used? Surname. So you've used a surname which is owned and controlled by the system. It is a legal title. They have full control of it. If we have time, we'll get into splitting of the title on the difference between a name and a title. We can, I'll just make a little note of that if we get into that. Mm-hmm. Title versus name. So, because you are without name and you are without an estate, you do not own anything whatsoever, and you are considered a person or a people. Let's talk about what people means. If you are a people, this is going back centuries now, before persons came in and it became purely business corporate. Now, okay, let's cover on corporations. Let's understand what a corporation is so you might understand what's going on here. Corporation basically means dead entity. So corpse, as in corpse, dead body, oration means to speak in a formal manner. Corporation, which means to create a dead entity. Okay? How do you tell what a dead entity is? This is very simple for people to understand. If I give you a name of something and it does not refer to a living, breathing man or woman, then it is a corporation. So if I say Tesla, well, that's the corporation. If I say Elon Musk, that's the guy who owns the corporation Tesla. If I said government, well, that's a corporation. Because if I said, well, how tall is government? Well, it doesn't make any sense, does it? No. But if I say, give you a name, I don't know, Clint Eastwood, that's a man. You know him, and you know how tall he is. You know what he looks like. It's a man, living, breathing. So a corporation is a dead entity. There are multiple different types of corporations. There's religious, regal, business, country. So these are different corporations. Now, let's go back to the olden days when we had regal corporations, and that would be the crown. Back in the day, the king realized that the people might get angry with him with all the taxation and the wars and all the rest of it, and he'd get hung. Because if the people rise up, the king's dead. And the king went, I don't really want to be on the hook. So what he did is he invented what is called the crown. So everything was now in the name of the crown, not the king. So he's moving himself away from the responsibility of his own actions and decisions. Now, if the king turns around and says, you are my people, and he's addressing a crowd, he's literally saying, I own you. You are my people. And you go, okay, what does people mean? It means chattel. So if you own the land, you look at the land, you've got a few acres, and you look on the land, and you say, I own the land, then you own everything on the land. The trees, the goats, the pigs, the cows, you own it all. If there are people on that land, you own them as well. And the king's told you this. He says, you are my people. So that means that you have to pay the king taxes to live on his land. So you've got to pay to live on his land. And he will get you to work his land. So that's what people means. There's a religious corporation called the church, and they will refer to God's people. So if you say that you're a people under, one of God's people under God, then you are saying that God has authority over you. So if you find yourself to be a people, then that means someone else has a higher authority over you and has control over you. Okay, so we're getting to the plebtorial system. So the people is chattel, owned. Today, the word people still means the same thing if it's spoken of by the state, but we now deal more with persons, personas, the legal persona, the all caps name, because it's more corporate as in a business now, okay? And we're dealing with a system of commerce. We can get into that later if you want. So people and persons, you are owned. So because you are a people, and let's refer to the UK at the moment. So the UK is a corporation. Because you are a people, you have no house. You have no name. Remember what a house is. Therefore, you are under the authority of the houses, the House of Commons, Houses of Parliament. And they're telling you this in your face. They've just told you. So House of Commons. And you go, okay, then what does House of Commons means? Well, that means you're a commoner. You have no standing. You're the common people or folks. This is why Barack Obama liked using the word folks all the time, because he was like having a dig at the American people and laughing at them, going, yeah, you're people, you're folks, you are without a house. So you're a common people without a house. Therefore, you've got to have the House of Commons. So this now means that because you are without a house, you are under the control of the House of Commons, common people. You are now under the control of common law. So a lot of people are making the mistake saying, I'm operating under common law. And I go, oh, for the love of God, if you do that in front of a judge, he's going to laugh at you because you've just told the judge that you're a commoner without a house or law or court of your own. So you are going to be treated as a piece of chattel. And that's what people are finding. So no, you do not operate in common law. Common law is controlled by the system, the state, the legal system, and the Bar Association today. So you are now under the rule of the House of Commons. You are without a house, and therefore you live in a dwelling. So if you live in a dwelling, what does that mean? It means you are a peasant without your own house. If you live in a dwelling, you don't own it. And you don't have a house name, you have a house number. And you have a postcode, which is also controlled by the state. So only plebs live in dwellings that have a house number and a postcode. And what are people doing? They fill out all the forms within the system, don't they? And if you fill out a form, what does that mean? It means you are now the informant. So you are grassing yourself up. You are actually putting your hand up and say, yes, I am guilty, because you are the informant. If you fill in a form, you are operating in the jurisdiction of the person who created said form. They have authority over that form. You're filling it in and you're doing it through consent. You've chosen. And what do you do when you write these forms in? They'll say, what's your surname? And you'll get your pen out. Okay. And you put your surname there. And they'll say, what's your national insurance number? Which ain't yours, by the way. It's issued to you. So a national insurance number, if it's issued to you, or anything that's issued or granted to you, means it does not belong to you. It stays with the issuer or the grantor. They have the authority over it. So a national insurance number is issued to you, and you put that down as well, because they're asking, what's your national insurance number? And you go, okay. And you fill that out. And then you go, what's your address? 69 Shakespeare Avenue. What's your postcode? And you fill it. You're consenting to be a pleb. So a pleb is basically someone who is a pauper. You do not own anything. You might live in a big fancy house. You might have a Bugatti sat outside, but if that all that is registered to the state, you don't own any of it. So you are a pauper. A pauper is someone without an estate and has no belongings, and they have no right to money, and they don't have a right to own anything. And that also means you are under the rule of said house, which is the state. So as a pleb, you've got to live in your position within this hierarchy, which means the politicians are above you, which means the monarchy is above you. In fact, anyone with a title is now above you because your title is pleb. You're plebtorian. You're the lowest of the low. You are a man or woman without stock, or people without stock. You have no breeding, and you are to be treated as chattel, just like pigs and goats and all the rest of it. So yeah, I know within the Bitcoin world, I don't use the word community. I am not in a community because that is the basis for communism. Thank you very much. So if you find yourself in a community, it means you've agreed to the rules of the community and you've agreed to the governing body that also controls said community. So no, I do not live in a community. Thank you. So within the Bitcoin world, or culture, if you wish, a lot of people are calling themselves plebs as a joke. And I go, look, the government are messing about. If you call yourself a pleb, they will treat you as like one. You've got to understand this entire system, it is a system of commerce. And in their system of commerce, they have one of their maxims of law. For he who allows himself to be deceived, let him. It's on you. So if you allow yourself to be deceived, that's on you. And they will treat you as such. They will not tell you. In fact, the judge himself will not tell you this. So if you're in their courts, this is where people are going wrong as well within the paperwork, that we could get into this as well if you want, the paperwork that people find themselves trapped in. Within the system, the legal system, by the way, the word legal means contract. So it's a contract system. It's a system based on contracts. That's what legal means. And by the way, legal standing means a man or woman standing by the contract. All right. And they do that by writing their name on the contract and then signing said contract. So if you receive a document that has no name or signature upon it, then that document has no legal standing, period, end of, no debate, don't care what anyone else says. If, by the way, if someone disagrees with me, they're just wrong. Okay. I might not know everything, but I'm always right. Okay. You can quote me on that. So anyone who does not understand what legal standing means and goes, oh yeah, you can receive documents in the post with no signatures, no name, and it has legal standing, are retarded or trying to gaslight you.
Right.
Once you understand what legal standing means, and a man or woman standing by a contract, that's what it means, then you can start playing this game. So going back to the court, if you go into the court and you say to the judge, I'm under common law, Your Honor. You've just told the judge that you are pleb. You've got no house. If you've got no house, then you cannot make the law. So the law will be applied to you. Also, the judge will not tell you if the paperwork that you are receiving is in fact fraudulent. That's on you to decide. Now, this is how the system of commerce works. Now we can get into this. This is important to understand. When you receive a document, you can't immediately call it fraud. For example, council tax, unless you challenge it. If you challenge the paperwork and then they still put or try and force the paperwork onto you, then it becomes fraud, because everyone can make a mistake. So let's say, for example, I send you a bill. All right, I just send a bill to you. It says you owe me £10,000. I send it to your address, and it turns up. Now, if you challenge the bill and you say to me, "What's this bill for? I don't remember putting an order in. Where's the contract?" I can go, "Oops, yeah, sorry, mate, my mistake. Not a problem. I'll retract it. That was a complete mistake." You can't call it fraud because I can retract it. So you don't call it fraud. So what people need to be doing is, when you go to court and the other side, no matter what it is, it could be utility companies, mortgage companies, it can be all these corporations. When paperwork is submitted, you can't call it fraud. But what you can do is you can start challenging it. So if the other side submits paperwork that is incorrect and it's referred to as a deficient instrument, in other words, there's no signature on it, there's no name on it, there's missing information, that sort of stuff, okay? If you choose to accept it, the judge will not interfere because you have chosen to accept it. Like, again, if I sent you a bill and you accept it and you pay me, I've not committed fraud. I sent you a bill. You're then, okay, and you've just paid me. Not a problem. That's not fraud. So the judge won't help you on this. But if you go to the judge, Your Honor, I've got a bit of a problem with this council tax bill. I don't believe this is a correct bill. It's definitely not a some certain bill. And that's for certain. So this bill does not look like a bill. It does not even look like a presentment in any way. Oh, by the way, let's talk about presentments. Presentments. So paperwork. Let's talk about paperwork as well. What people have got to understand is the paperwork is the extension of your authority. That's why it's got to be your paperwork. This is why I'm trying to get people to write their own paperwork, do your own notices, do your own letters, sign it, put seals on it, put your coat of arms on it, send it off. It's your paperwork as authority. The word authority means author of. So again, when I test somebody, I ask someone, I say, if to see if they're slave-minded or they are sovereign. So I'll ask them, where does authority come from? If they say government, I go, well, you're a slave then. You're a pleb. You've agreed to the system controlling you. A sovereign will go, comes from me. That's where authority comes from. So your paperwork is the extension of your authority, author of. As a living, breathing man or woman, you are author of your law. And you can put that law down on your paper using your pen and your ink and your paper, and you send it off. The paper is actually an extension of your sword. This is why it's called a presentment, because it's a man's duty to provide and protect women and children. If we've got time, we can get into that, and marriage and versus state marriage, which is absolutely horrendous. But as a man, you are on this planet. Your duty is to protect women and children. End of. Not a debate. That's what you're here for. And you should absolutely be protecting your women. In other words, the women in your life, your wife, your girlfriend, that sort of, your mother, that sort of stuff, if your father's, passed away or whatever, and daughters and all that sort of stuff. That is your job. And you do so with the sword. Now, you might have seen the Lady Justice, okay, with the lady out there, and she's got scales in one hand, sword in the other, and she's got a blindfold. The scales is about the balance of law, to correct a wrong, get balance. The sword is there because if the paperwork fails, then the sword's coming out. That's what it means. So when I serve notice on somebody, I'm going to do it in a polite way. I'm going to do serve it. But just remember that it's backed by the sword. I'll find where you live. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So it's everything that you do. All your paperwork is backed by the sword. This is why you have a coat of arms. Because if you have your house, your coat of arms is a shield. And you put that on your paperwork as a symbol of protection. And you're saying, I'm protecting my house, which is my wife and children and my belongings and all the rest of it. So your paperwork is the extension of your authority. And a modern day piece of paperwork is called a presentment if it's a bill or a notice. And this refers to presenting arms. So in the olden days, when we all had swords, our ancestors had swords, if you come across another man, you would present your sword as a warning and say, back off. All right. That's called a presentment. Today, in a modern army, a sergeant would go to the people, the soldiers, and go, present arms. And then they would present the arms. All right. And that is say, get ready to fight, because you're presenting the arms and it's a warning to the other man. So today, the modern version of that is called a presentment, which is the paperwork. And that is normally in the form of a bill, which is a demand for payment, or a notice. And a notice would be, back off. You're doing something wrong. You better leave me alone, or whatever it is. So notices and bills are presentments. So going back to the court and the paperwork. So if you was in there for council tax, never agree to the bill. If the judge says to you, this is how commerce works. This is our system of commerce works. If the judge says to you, did you receive a council tax bill? And you've said yes, you've just agreed to the bill, haven't you? And you've now agreed to the obligation to pay it. You've lost. There's nothing you can do because you said, yes, I received the bill. Okay, that means you've accepted it. You've accepted the obligation. That's it. You also can't challenge the bill. So, and you can't make an excuse. If you go into court and the judge says, did you receive this bill? And then you say, well, I can't afford it. I got no money. Well, you've just accepted the obligation to pay it, and now you refuse to pay it. And they don't care about excuses. So you better pay up. So you can't do any of that. So you can't challenge the bill either. You can't, oh, it's too expensive, Your Honor. It's too high. No, you've just accepted the bill, so you better pay it. So instead of doing all of that, what you should always be doing is challenging the paperwork itself. You never say it's a presentment. You say, is this a possible presentment? Is this a bill? I don't think it is. By the way, I'm going to give you a secret. It isn't. It's a bluff. Because in commerce, a bill can only be created based on paperwork. And the paperwork that needs to be in place is a few things. There's got to be an original offer. There's got to be a contract. There's got to be an invoice. And then finally a bill. So if all those aren't in place, then the bill becomes fraudulent. So you always challenge the paperwork. Says, how did this bill? Where did this bill come from? Or this alleged bill? I'd have no knowledge of this. See, if the judge asks you, do you live? What council do you have? And you go, yeah, Derby City Council, Your Honour. You just agreed to pay the bill. So the judge is going to say, pay up then. So I go, what council? What are you on about? I don't even. This is the attitude the sovereign would have. And go,
these are the verbal traps that they use, right? Like, just to ask you a basic kind of question, which you've been led to believe your whole life that you live under XYZ council, because you have since you were knee high, and boom, you're done. Like that's it. You've accepted.
That's it.
Contract.
Correct.
God.
Correct. And that is how debt collectors operate. That's all they will do. They are fishing, and they will just get you to answer one question. They're just wanting you to do that. So when they send a document regarding the bill, if you make any silly mistakes, like, oh, I've moved from that address. Okay. Doesn't matter if you've moved. You still owe it because you've just said you've moved. It means you've accepted the original bill. So this is where people are going wrong. Oh, by the way, you can't use notice of conditional acceptance on a bill. Can't do that. Because remember, a bill is a demand for payment. Now, they've got to understand how commerce works. A bill is a demand for payment, meaning all the negotiation is over. So if you get a plumber in to fix your tap, and you say, right, fix my tap, and you discuss it with the plumber, says, I can do it, it's £100, and you agree, that's the contract. Then he does the job. Now you're obligated to pay. He will give you an invoice, and the invoice will be fix the toilet, one washer, 1 hour's labor, £100. You can ask for a bill. If you don't pay the invoice in 30 days, he will then submit a bill to you, which is a demand for payment, which means negotiation has been done.
This is very, very important. The difference between an invoice and a bill, because what happened, and I've learned all of this from watching your videos, and to keep it, I know we're both in the UK, but this is very much across the globe right now. It's, this is how it's working, right? Your council tax, or whatever it's called in your country, tax foncière in France, for example, like if we back it up, like the first thing that you teach is if it's in a windowed envelope, it's fraudulent.
Yes, internal mail. It's corporate internal mail.
That blew my mind because it's got your name on the front. It's got a title, so it might say Mr. Then it might have a capitalized D for Daniel, or it might even say Daniel, and then it will have Prince in all caps, everything in all caps, and then you've taught people like anything in all caps in black ink basically is addressed to your legal dead, your dead non-legal, your dead legal fiction.
Correct.
You're basically my corporate self, my straw man is, right? Okay, so there's two me's, right? There's the corporate me, and then there's the living, breathing man. Correct. But I've gone around my whole life conducting myself as the corporate me without ever knowing it.
Correct.
And every time they ask me to fill in a form, and it's in black ink, in all caps, in boxes, in special little boxes. Mate, you've absolutely, honestly, I can't ever look at life the same again. And so we've just moved, okay?
Yeah.
And just trying to stay under the radar, don't want anything to do with them. We've been hassled with or harassed with like hand notices coming through the door from some lackey that's going around posting for the NHS. And we've got somebody has sent us, the council has sent us, sign up to the electoral register, list everybody that lives in this residence, and we can
yes,
yes,
you're getting it, mate.
And then now the council tax turns up, And we're like, hang on a minute. So I'm going through all the stuff. Like, there's our name, like Mr. and Mrs. So given a title, which means we're plebs.
You are lowest of the low.
People think Mr. is good, right?
It's the lowest title on board ship. That's what Mr. is. So within this hierarchy of the legal system, it's based on titles and not names. This is an important fact. The people within the legal system cannot force you to do anything, but they can enforce you. There's a difference. Force means make you do something without obligation. Enforce means to make you do something because you're obligated to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Big difference. And that's why it's police enforcement. And police means policy enforcers. They're telling you, they're enforcing the policy within the contract. So Mr. is a lowest of the low title within this system. It's a maritime law system. And you are below a police officer. All right. So that means the police officer can have authority over you. And of course, you're now below an MP, member of parliament. You're below them. So this idea that the politicians work for us, I'm going, where did you get this idea from? They don't. The parliament isn't for the people. It's to control the people. As I mentioned before, you're our chattel. You are owned. Right. You have got to be told what to do because you are without a house. So this idea that politicians work for us, no. By the way, I'm not part of the us. There's no we when it comes to me. I'm a sovereign man. So yeah, so Mr. is the lowest of the low, and of course, as you go up this hierarchy of titles, you'll have, king, president, prime minister. By the way,
Lord, Baron,
Barons,
that kind of stuff.
Knighthood, Sir, Jimmy Savile. Now, if you understand that child means chattel as well, then you start beginning to see what's actually going on within the legal system. And if you've got a knighthood, you can do whatever you want to children, and the police, because they're lower than you, can't touch you. That's getting quite twisted. So the system, that's how it works.
So say that again, because this is all the pedo shit that we're seeing, right?
Yes.
That like everybody's kind of running around with their heads on fire. Like, why are these fucking people not in prison? Like,
correct.
We know. Like, why the fuck are they not in prison? We know what they're doing. And it's rampant. It's in schools, it's in churches, it's in police forces, it's in politics, it's everywhere.
Yes.
So explain that again. Like, why is this not being addressed?
Because it is legal. Right. And now let me explain what legal means, because a lot of people don't. Lawful and legal are two completely different things. Law cannot be broken. So murder, rape, pedophilia, that's against the law. No discussion. We all know that. As men, we know that.
Everybody knows that.
Everybody knows that.
That's just known.
Correct. However, if you put something in a contract and people consent to it, it can be legal. If I try and explain to you what murder is compared to, if I do the lawful murder and the legal murder, you'll understand what's going on. If you murder somebody, now we're talking about the living, breathing man or woman. If you murder someone, it means taking someone's life without right. That's the key to it. Because, if someone breaks into your house, of course you can kill them. That's self-defense. It's not murder. So it means taking a life without right. And there would be a victim. So therefore, if you did murder somebody, someone you didn't know, you just come across, bang, shot them. There you go, that's murder. That would be breaking the law. Now, the thing with laws and rights is they don't actually exist until they're broken. It's one of the things you learn, consent makes the law, by the way. So that's how law works. That's not how legal works. Legal is completely different. If you are arrested by a police officer for murder, what's actually going on is you did not have the correct paperwork and you did not have permission to end that person's life. In other words, you did not have a license to kill. Where have you heard that before? 007. So what you've done is you've broken policy within a contract. You're a pleb, remember? So you do not have the right to go around killing because you've not been given a license to kill. So you've broken policy and now you'll be arrested for it. Now, if you're higher up, if you're a politician or if you're a knight or a king, you ain't going to get arrested for that because you can do whatever you want to a people. You can kill them all day long. They're yours. It's like if a farmer decides to kill a goat or a pig because he's hungry, he ain't going to get arrested. So the king's never going to get arrested and the prime minister's never going to get arrested and all the rest of them because they are above people and they're above misters. Now, we understand what's going on with that's all legal because everyone consented. You agreed because you registered. I mean, pseudo contract, by the way. We'll get into informed consent. You know, this is the bluff of the system, which we can get into later. So you go, okay, how does paedophilia work? Well, what have you done? What have most parents done? Parent, by the way, is a legal title, as you know, and they have registered their child, haven't they? What does register mean? Handing over to someone else. You can see what's going on. So you've given a child away. It is now ward of the state, so it's owned by the state. Lowest of the low, it is chattel, just like pigs, goats, and people. And there's a hierarchy within this state, and the state is a corporation, and there are sort of titles within it. And if you get above a certain title, like, for example, a knighthood, Sir Jimmy Savile, you could do whatever you want. You could do whatever you want to children. And the police, because they're lower than a knighthood and a baron and all the rest of them, the police can't legally do anything. Legally. Because they will be interfering in commerce. Because remember what's happened. The mother and father gave the child away, gave it to the state and said to the state, yeah, do what you want. So that's the difference between lawful and legal. Legal does not care about morals. Law does. So law is based on morality, right and wrong. Legal does not care. If two people consent to something within a contract, that's legal. How many times have you heard that? Oh, nice and legal.
Yeah.
Not moral, not right. So this is why the police can't act. In fact, if you can ever interview someone called John Wedger, I would strongly look that guy up. He's an ex-policeman. He actually joined the police and within Vice, and his job was to catch the paedophiles. And he did his job too well. He actually went after the paedophiles. And then his superintendents at the very top turned around and says, no, don't actually mean you do that. Don't actually catch the MPs doing it. You're not supposed to do that. It's just paperwork. You're just supposed to make it look like we're going after the paedophiles so the people think the children are safe. You want to listen to the guy. The stories that he was saying when the police destroyed the guy because he wanted to actually save children, actually do the right thing. So if you could get an interview with John Wedge, I'd strongly advise it because I've listened to some of his podcasts and I'm just like, oh my God. You know, you get so angry. You know,
I already am. I'm just so disgusted. Like the fact, the classic example, Sir Jimmy Savile, and then you just got to back it up and like, hang on a minute. So how did he become a sir? And you're given all of this narrative. We're probably around the same age. We remember the Jim Will Fix It show and whatever else, and Top of the Pops, and his very close and personal friendship with our now a king, who, I mean, come on, like, guys, join the dots. Like, this goes to the top, all the way down, and it's just so vile. So now I understand.
That's why.
Now you've explained that. Now I understand how they're getting away with it.
That's how they get it. It's all nice and legal because you consented. And remember, it might not be informed consent, but in their system, for he who allows himself to be deceived, let him. So when, unfortunately, you probably were registered at birth.
Yeah.
So you got a national insurance number. So your mother and father didn't know what they were doing, but they filled the form out. And your mother, unfortunately, became the informant.
Let's do that because this, you know, there's a lot of Bitcoiners having babies, right? You listen very, very carefully at this point, because, and fingers crossed that there's a big, you know, natural movement, home birth movement. They're not going to the jurisdiction. They're not going to the ward, Pete. Let's make sure people understand what's going on here, because what generally happens, the big day arrives, you get to the hospital. Now as soon as you've crossed that line, you've entered into a different jurisdiction.
You have. So remember, it's a state hospital. They tell you this. It's a state hospital, and it's also operating as a trust. All hospitals operate as a trust. Most of them have a sign outside saying trust. So they're giving you a clue. And of course, what happens, and you mentioned it a little earlier, is you end up in a ward. They tell you this. So it's a hospital ward. Okay, and you go, well, what does that mean? What does ward mean? Well, if you find yourself in the jurisdiction of a ward, it means you have no authority, and it means someone else has authority over you, like prison ward. The warden has authority over you. A hospital ward. If you vote within a ward, it means your vote is worthless. It has no meaning, okay, because you have no authority. You're actually giving your opinion. It's an opinion poll when you vote. So voting is completely pointless and worthless. We could get into that if you want.
I would love to. Yeah,
But
let's do the birth, then we'll do
we'll do the
voting.
birth when we get into the vote, because when you see this, when you figure it out, you go, "Oh my god, oh my god!" I know a lot of people might be watching this going all doom and gloom. It ain't. We don't do doom and gloom at the Solving Project. All we do is educate on how the system works, and once you know, you'll be able to see a way out, and then you go, "Oh, we can have so much fun." But we can get into that. So registering at birth. So what happens is, I mean, this stems back thousands, well, hundreds of years. And what it's all to do with the name again, right? Now, it starts with the man and his family name. You're supposed to have a family name, which is backed up by your family seal, your coat of arms, and it means something. And as you have a coat of arms, you have the right to defend your name and defend your family, and you protect everything by putting your name on it. So if you have a boy or a girl, they take your family name, okay? That means that they are now protected under you by death. And that means that if any other man or woman or anybody should even look at your children in a funny way, they are ended. And you have the right to do so because you're the man, okay? You don't have that right if you're a people. That's why you get arrested, because you haven't got the paperwork to do it. But if you've got your own estate, you've got your own paperwork, and you've got your coat of arms, absolutely you've got the right. Who says I can't? So, and by the way, if we go back to this, when men were men, and they were actually controlling their own house, and they made the law in their house, I'm telling you, you'll have a world of peace and prosperity like the likes of which you have never seen before. It'd be paradise. So we've got to go back to that. Men have got to go around saying, no, I'm not putting up with this anymore. I'm not signing a petition. I'm not voting. Okay, I'm not going to be doing protests. So you're the man. You've got your name. And the way it was used to have been done, but back in the olden days, is when a boy or a girl was born within a family. And by the way, if you're having a birth, have a natural birth. Do not cut the umbilical cord. Leave it on for at least 30 minutes, and it will naturally come off. It harms the baby when you cut the cord, but that's so. By the way, I also research everything, including health and finance and Bitcoin. Anyway,
don't circumcise your boys either, please.
Don't do that, even. No, don't do that. Don't do that. You're absolutely correct. Don't do that. So you got your name. So the way it works is, if you fathered a boy or a girl, and you would then create an affidavit of birth, and it would be your name, your family, and of course your wife and all the rest of it. You would sign it. You'd have witnesses, and you go, there you go. That was my affidavit of birth to say little Billy was born on this day, and he's heir to your family. He's heir to your throne, and that would also be logged in the family Bible, because your family Bible would have your entire history of your family going back whenever the Bible began. That's what Bible means, like family history. So that's how it used to be done. But what happens is the state got involved. Well, before that, even the church got involved. So the church got involved, and they invented the first name, which is the Christian name, because the church wanted control of the babies, especially young girls. So what they would do is offer the man, usually peasants who didn't know any better. It wouldn't be nobles, nobility, wouldn't know because they've got their coat of arms, but peasants. And the church would offer a Christian name. So what would happen is, when a peasant family gave birth to a boy and a girl, they would apply a Christian name to the boy and the girl. That meant that the boy and the girl was now under the authority of the church. It's a Christian name. What have you done? Whoopsie daisy. Fast forward a little bit later on, and of course the surname came along. So it's now Christian names and surnames now. So every single boy and girl today is now being labeled with a Christian name and a surname, which belongs to the state and the church. So you give birth in a state hospital, which is what is referred to as a foundling hospital. And you go, what does foundling mean? A foundling hospital, or place of foundling, is where you abandoned goods, usually children, i.e. orphans. So you're going to a state hospital, you are abandoning your baby, your boy and a girl. You fill out the form. The mum normally signs as the informant, and the mum normally gives her maiden name. The maiden name is usually required. She's given her maiden name because she is agreeing that she's just given birth to a child outside of wedlock. This is the important bit. This means that the child is not protected by the father's family name. It's been abandoned. This is all nice and legal because your mum's signing it. So then the state will take control of the child because it's been abandoned. It's an orphan. And it creates a trust in, we can go into the Unum Sanctum and all this if we have time, but that's quite a complicated subject. So the trust is set up, and this trust is supposed to, how should we say, pay for all the life bills of the child throughout the life. But you are under the control of the state. The prime minister is the prime administrator of the trust that you are operated within. And you have got to do as you're told because you're a child. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can be 35. Doesn't matter. You are a man without a house. Remember, if you're a man without a house, you're a child, an infant. Infant means a man who cannot speak. Like, for example, in a army, infantry. If you're part of the infantry, you can't speak to the general. Oh, you do as you're told, mate, because you're in infantry. So infant means a man who cannot speak, a man who has no word. By the way, you need a name to have a word. To have a word is your law. Your word is your bond. All this stuff, we know about it.
Yeah, all these old sayings.
It is, but people have forgotten. So anyway.
So here's the key point, because again, like a lot of people might be getting black-pilled right now thinking, oh my God, what have I done? I've done the same, 4 kids, all registered. They get you, they trick you. Like, this is what it's the layers of trickery, because the matron or whoever has been trained to do this. This is the next process. All they want to do is help families enjoy this wonderful day, and they've been tricked and trained into doing all kinds of fucking shit, like injections, circumcisions, pushing freaking soy powder baby milk instead of natural breastfeeding practices, and all of this kind of stuff. And to make sure you got the piece of paper in your hand, don't forget to register the birth.
Oh yes.
They have no idea that they are being used as a pawn in the game to trick you, the mother that's just given birth, absolutely freaking exhausted,
yes,
overcome with all kinds of emotions, endorphins, hormones running all over the place, paperwork immediately. What?
I know.
And do they even have to go to a certain place in the hospital, or can it all just be filled out there and then in black ink, capitals, maiden name?
Correct.
Now here's the point: 0 informed consent.
None.
0.
None.
So is this what we can hold on to, Pete?
This is the beauty of it all. Is the system, all of it, is a bluff. All of it.
And all of it.
All of it.
Absolutely every single part of it.
All of it
is
a bluff. Okay? This is a story told in ancient proverbs and child stories referring to the devil. The devil can never actually do anything to you. You have to consent, and then he can bluff you with the devil's contract. But I just want to touch back into registering at birth.
Yes.
So when the newborn baby is born, what they'll often do is they'll put black ink on the little footprint of the newborn baby and put it up against a document.
Yeah, and frame it for you, and like
they will. They will. They go, look at that, isn't it pretty? And of course, the mum and daddy go, oh, isn't that cute? No, that's a signature, right?
Yeah.
So this is why it's not informed consent. You've just been born. You're just been born. You can't even talk. Can't even walk. You're an hour old. How can you consent to a contract? Well, technically, you don't. You don't consent until you turn 16, but we can get into that. But what they're doing is they put the soul, and there's a reason why the sole of your foot is same as soul is with your eternal soul. So the reason why it sounds the same, because it's the church thing. It's just religious. By the way, the entire legal system today is religion based. Okay, so there's all ceremony involved. So the baby's foot, you have the ink, is pressed onto the document, so the baby has consented and gave the mark. Or there might be another version where it'd be a prick of blood. So you'll be a prick of blood, and they'll put it on a card, and they'll put drops of blood on the card. You've probably seen this, right? Now, here's the thing. I don't even know how they get away with the official narrative, right? Because the official narrative, the matron will say, oh, we're only doing that so that in the future we can test the blood for viruses and all the rest of it. That's not how you collect blood. I'm sorry. I mean, if you went to the doctors and he wanted to take a sample of your blood, he wouldn't cut you and then get a tissue and go, yeah, we'll get that checked. No, of course not. It goes in a sterile jar, doesn't it? So you can go off and check it. So clearly, it's not about checking the blood for viruses and whatnot. It's a blood oath. So what you've done, because in the olden days, because remember, a lot of people could not read or write and they couldn't sign the name. They would actually cut their thumb and put a red thumbprint. This is why the red thumbprint comes from. And that would be their mark on the document. That's their blood oath. So that's why in some of these state hospitals, they do the prick of the blood and put the blood on a card. Because it's not clinical. It's not clean. It's a piece of card. It's just, yeah.
So this is the signature of the baby that opens the Suska V Trust.
Yes.
And is this linked to like the weight as well? Like, is this how they worth your weight in gold? Is this where this?
That's right.
So, Pete.
This is where the title. How many people have said that in their lives? Oh, worth my weight in gold. It comes from this. Absolutely. So yeah, the way and they don't put the gold itself into trust, but they put the value of the gold into trust. They put some other stuff in there, like 10 acres of land, your share of oil, gas, all the commodities, all that.
Because you are a living man, and this is a planet.
Yeah.
That is all.
Well,
I mean, it's just ours to enjoy, but
right.
the way that they've set this system up.
Yes. Let me explain
who's they, right? People, who are they talking about? Blah, blah, blah. But like, this is layers and layers and layers of hundreds of years. There's not one person you can point a finger to. So people have to kind of.
Well, you can point to a finger where it all started. Well, for a certain country, which would be because this birth certificate has been going on for thousands of years, and it's been set up and collapsed. Because if you look at Babylonian, Mesopotamia, all that, House of Bible, all that, this is going on for thousands of years. But if you want a more, because that's more myth, but if you want something that's more recorded history that you can look back on, then it all began in 1302 with Pope Benedict III. I think it was, some of this stuff, I'd try and do it from memory. You might have to go look that up. Where he made the first crown of the Unum Sanctum. There's 3 crowns of the Unum Sanctum. And what they did is he basically made a declaration. Now, you've got to listen to the language here. It's all in the language. Because he can't go against God. Now, kings, popes, they cannot go against God. So even though these are psychopathic, bureaucratic, con men, they still believed in God and they could not go against God. So what the church did is it isn't the physical land. They knew they couldn't do that because God would be angry. Because if you are religious, then you believe that God created the planet and then gave dominion to man. Dominion. If you have dominion, there's no authority above you. Now, the church couldn't violate that. So what they did is they called it a world. That's different. A world is a jurisdiction. It's not a physical thing. Like, for example, if I say to you, if you're into boxing, then you will probably be in the world of boxing. If you're in Bitcoin, you'll be in the world of Bitcoin. It's a world, it's a jurisdiction. And it can also refer to ancient history, like the ancient world of Rome, which is long gone. So they created a world, a religious world, and they made a fictitious decision that everything within this world was actually owned by God and put into trust. So God owned it. He was the grantor, so he owned the trees, the land, the fish, but we became the beneficiaries. All right, so we don't own it, but we're the beneficiaries. But the church would be administrator of everything in the world. All right, so they administrate. So they allow you, because you're the beneficiary, and so the church then says, well, you're allowed 10 acres of land. You are worth £7 2 ounces in gold. And because most people were religious back then, they went along with it. Informed consent. Again, they just didn't speak up. So this
church, you're specifically talking about this particular pope. So we're in the Vatican right now.
Vatican.
This is and that, as everybody knows, is its own little country within Italy.
It is.
It's not part of Italy. It's self-owned thing. So
correct. It's a bank as well.
Right.
Yeah. So Vatican is a bank. So you go and research that. Look into that. In fact, depending on your sources, it could be the most powerful bank in the world, and it could have the most assets to it. You've got to understand, why is it called Vatican or the Vatican? Well, the reason being, as you've probably heard of the Vatican catacombs, you know, underneath the Vatican, there's supposed to be those catacombs of these important records. Now, this is where the birth certificate is supposed to be kept. I mean, we're talking now about, in the olden days, yes. I mean, modern day now, it probably isn't, you know, it's probably in a vault somewhere within a country, but we're talking about ancient history from like 1302 onwards. So the catacombs of the Vatican would hold all the important documents of the world, and that would include birth certificates. Now, the birth certificates are important because they can be used to create bonds, which can then be used to create credit that the Vatican can then spend. Now, you've got to understand the world of finance, because finance does not use money in any way, shape, or form. It's debt and credit, but we haven't got time to go into that. So you've got the Vatican. Why is it called Vatican? Well, it's named after a goddess called Vatica. And you go, okay, what's this then? Well, that's a goddess of the underworld. And her job was to keep all the souls of the world. So within a demon underworld. So this church was referred to as Vatican because obviously it's Vatica, the goddess, and she's got your soul. She's kept your soul in the catacombs, as in the birth certificate. Because remember what you've just done, you put your little foot on there and you put your soul on the card. And like I say, it's religious based. You know, I'm not saying that you should follow religion and you've got to, you know, but I'm just saying this is how it works. And when you dig and you go down these rabbit holes, it's like, oh my God, this is insane. You know, there's even a bit where there's a part where when you're born, the reason why they cut the umbilical cord, which we mentioned earlier, is because in the eyes of the Vatican, there's two of you being born. There's you, the baby, and then there's your dead twin, which is the afterbirth. And they want that. So they cut that and take that away. And that is your legal dead entity. So everything is in the name. I know it goes deep.
That's fucking hell, mate. Like that's just twigged for me now.
I mean, here's the thing. Have you heard of the paper bull documents from the Vatican? Okay.
Yes, you know, I have just the other day, but please, lay it on me.
You know what that is? I'm going to tell you. A paper bull is not written on paper. It's written on skin. And it's also written in blood. Now, the official narrative, because it refers to it's kids' skin. Now, they're saying that's a goat, it's a baby goat. Is it? What do people call children today? Where's my kids? I'm not saying anything. I'd love to get my hands on some of those paper bulls and then get a DNA test done, because there's strong evidence that that's actually a sacrificed baby, and it's the skin of the baby written in the baby's blood. I'm telling you, you research this stuff, and I'm going, oh my God.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, and then you go back to all the stuff that is, you know, Jimmy Savile stuff. It's all linked. It's all tied. So, yeah, I'd say I've been researching this stuff, for 30 years. So, no one wanted to listen to me until 2020. Now they do.
Right.
But anyway, yeah.
That's probably important because, you know, a lot of people might be thinking, like, we're an hour in and we're like, you know, who are these freaking nutcases discussing this kind of stuff? I mean, we've gone pretty dark pretty quickly.
It is.
But, I mean, it is like you're only one or two onion layers away from this stuff, honestly, when you start looking. Yes. And you know, I've read your book, I've read your handbook, I've got these books, you know, Meet Your Straw Man, the UCC Connection, Commercial Law, you know, I've got the Black's Law Dictionary now. I sit here sifting through this, because as you've been explaining, I said to a friend of mine recently, we love going down rabbit holes. And he's like, oh, which one are you going down? Well, the sovereign one. I'm going down the sovereign one. And I've got this podcast lined up. He's like, well, what's your biggest takeaway from it? And I said, well, you've probably done the maritime law thing, the birth certificate, the Cisco V Trust, and he's like, yeah, but I dead ended it. I couldn't be. I'm like, okay, you need to go back and have a look. And he's like, well, what's your biggest takeaway from it? I'm like, well, first of all, we're illiterate.
Yes.
And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, what, you can't read? I'm like, no, I can read. I can read what they want me to read, but we are illiterate. And by design, we are illiterate because we go through their education system, which is an agenda, it's full of agendas, not curriculums. And we have been down engineered. I could go on for hours on this, and I know you have your own take on the education system.
Oh yes,
Pink Floyd tried to warn us.
They did.
Illiteracy, because there's a couple of things I really want to trigger people with. One, you're illiterate. Two, this word liberty and the Statue of Liberty for 50% of people tuning in are American right now. So get prepared. You're about to get fully fucking triggered.
Sorry.
And voting. We need to come back to voting because guess what, Americans? Your vote doesn't fucking matter. Never fucking has done. Correct. But you have to understand why, and we are going to talk about it. So illiteracy. Let's go there. Why are people illiterate?
That's right. The reason people are illiterate is they do not know the meaning of the words that they are reading. They don't understand the origin of the words. And also, they do not understand the system of commerce that they are operating within. So, okay, let's talk with the system of commerce. The average person doesn't even understand language. I mean, they don't even understand syntax. Syntax is the arrangement of words. And within commerce, within this legal system, you can rearrange words in a sentence and have a completely different meaning. And the average person won't spot that. But let me explain the difference between a word and a legal title. So, and again, you should, whenever you receive a document, this is one of the things you learn is, and this is what you can do if you receive any sort of documentation in the post from someone you've never had contact with. The very first thing you should be doing is saying what language are you using and what dictionary. So we can clarify the language in the dictionary, because hopefully a lot of people watching this know the difference between Oxford English and Black's Law Dictionary. So words can have different meanings depending on the dictionary you're using. But then these words can be turned into a legal title. And I'll give you a classic one. And we mentioned it earlier with resident. So this is how the council tax. This is the council tax trap. Everything is based on a legal title. But the average person, because they can't read, they don't see the legal title. And what they see is, in fact, two words on the paper. And it will say something like, the resident is obligated to pay council tax. Mm-hmm. Now, the average person thinks that means resident as a word. And if you look that up in Oxford English Dictionary, it means living in a house. So the person goes, oh, because I'm living in a house, I've got to pay tax. And they fall into the trap. But no, what is written on the paper is the resident. The word the is changing the meaning of the word resident. So the resident has now become a legal title. So it's the resident. Well, that means I've got to accept a contract then. It means I have to accept a contract where I've agreed to accept the title, the resident. And if I accept that legal title, the resident, then yes, I am obligated to pay council tax. Let me explain how a legal title works. If you go and work for McDonald's and there is a title and it says burger flipper, all right? And you say, yeah, I'll be the burger flipper. I am acting as the burger flipper. You've agreed to the contract and you sign the contract, yes. And your legal title now is burger flipper. And now you have to do all the duties of a burger flipper that is written down in the policy of the contract that you signed. So that's a legal title. So people can't read on that level and they don't understand what words mean. So, for example, this is one of the things that a lot of property developers that I know are waking up to, and they don't own their house. Because when you buy a house, and this is what I'm sorry, everybody, this is what happened to everybody. Mm-hmm. Where do you go? You go to an estate agent, don't you? Mm-hmm. And you go, well, hang on a minute. What do you mean estate agent? Because that is telling you what they're dealing in. They're an agent, which means they're working for someone who's the principal, who has authority over them. So agent, like secret agent. 007 was a secret agent and worked for Her Majesty the Queen, who was the principal, right? So an agent working for someone higher up, the principal, and they are dealing in estates. Oh, not buildings, not houses. You're buying a title within an estate. And they tell you this in black and white. They don't hide this. Because what do? If you look at the house that you want to buy, it says tenure, doesn't it? It'll say what tenure you're going to get. Well, what does tenure mean? Tenure means you are holding a document. You have been given the right to hold a document for a period of time. That just means you hold a document. It does not mean you own it. So tenure means you are being granted a document to hold. And you're okay then. What document am I going to be given? Freehold or leasehold? They're telling you to your face. You're free to hold, or you have to have a leasehold. Leasehold is the same as a freehold, but it's got normally a 99-year limit, and then the title has to go back to the title holder. So if you buy...
Basically, it's saying you are free to hold. We give you permission to hold this piece of paper.
Yes.
Good little Johnny. Well done. Look how important you are. But you think it's attached to the land.
It isn't.
It's not. It's like the jurisdictional bullshit that's just hovering above it. Like,
correct. It's just a jurisdiction. And the good news is it's a corporate jurisdiction with no name. So once you learn the power of the name, you can start challenging this. By the way, little thing about a flag. Flags, by the way, a flag is supposed to be backed by a name. Okay. How many people are waving the Union Jack right now? Can you give me the name behind that flag? No. You're flying a flag that you do not know the name to. By the way, if you fly another man's flag, you're under the authority of that man because it becomes a banner. And you're flying his banner. So now he can tell you what to do. So everyone Union Jack means you're a pleb. You're a pleb flying the Union Jack of another man. So anyway.
I see them as corporate logos.
They are corporate logos. They are corporate logos because there's no name behind the flag.
So, right. Okay. So for our American audience that grew up standing up every single morning in the state jurisdiction ward of their education system to pledge allegiance to a corporate logo.
Yes.
I am sorry.
Yes.
Like this is like, again, don't get black pilled. There is a way out. Bitcoin is obviously a huge tool.
It is
part of this, a big key. Okay. So back to the land. So how can, this is something that a lot of us are going to be interested to know because, stacking Bitcoin, many people listening to this over the last 5 to 8 years or whatever, perhaps even longer.
Yep.
Or they have a long-term investment plan to stack Bitcoin for the next 10 years. And then they want to exit the system. We want to build out citadels. We want to buy the 150 acres and build a couple of houses on there for our families, regenerative farming, have our cows, have our own power, have our own water. That is the dream.
Correct.
Fucking pointless if you're going to sign a freehold because it's not going to be yours ever. Correct. You're going to give up, even worse, you're going to give up a loyal title of Bitcoin for
something you don't own.
Fiat junk piece of paper that says you are free to hold this certificate. The land is always owned by us anyway. And so how do we then start moving away from this, buying property with a loyal title? So it is ours.
Yes. Now, here's the thing with the system, right? There are no cheat codes. There are no shortcuts. So if you want out of the system, you have to study it. You have to learn it. You have to know why you're doing the thing. I've got to make this point. You cannot copy someone else's homework on this. So if there's people out there just think, I'm just going to download this document that someone else wrote, sign it, and all my problems are solved. No. You see, if you copy, say you're in class or whatever, and you got a student who gets A+ every time, and he does the homework, but you copy it. The student who actually created the homework, he gets A+. You get F-. But the answers are exactly the same. Exactly the same. You go, why? Well, it's because you didn't do the homework. This is why people are failing with their paperwork at the minute in court, because they're not using their own and they're not understanding it and they're using templates. I mean, yeah, okay, fair enough. I know the Sovereign Project, we do supply templates, but it's supposed to be for a guide, just to give you a gist of it. I know I put templates in the handbook, the Sovereign Project handbook, but you're not supposed to just copy it and hope for the best. You're supposed to know why you're doing it. So you have to know the name deception. I know you've done the 22-week course. I know there's the advanced course, and I'm writing maybe one big course or two new courses. I don't know. It's going to cover all of this. But you've got to study this. Once you understand it, you know the difference between a name and a legal title. If you know what legal standing means, you know how contracts work, if you know all this, yes, you can claim the land, because you will realize that the land itself has currently not been claimed. So your house you're living in, no one's claimed it. The land, if you're a farmer watching this, I'm telling you, the land you're working your cows on has not been claimed yet. And you go, why not? Because for a land to be claimed requires a name, because we spoke about this right at the beginning, the name of the authority that's making the claim. All right. Only a living, breathing man or woman can have said authority. They can speak their law. This is created through or proved through an affidavit. Okay. So in the olden days, if someone wanted to claim land, what they would do is they would survey the land. They would go to the local village or town. They would put a notice on the notice board, an actual physical board, and that with their intentions. The town crier would come out, hear ye, and everyone from the village would come out and read all the notices. And you would say, it is my intention to claim this land for myself within 30 days. If anyone wishes to object, come forward. And the only way you could object is if you'd already claimed it yourself, and there's your affidavit. And then they go, all right, fair enough, you've already claimed it. After 30 days, if no one's stepped up and says, right, I'm now going to claim it, you'd stake your claim. I mean, we still use the language today, stake your claim. And they would put a wooden stake in the corners of the land. You would create an affidavit and you would say, right, this is my land. And then you'd go back to the village. And in the olden days, you would record, not register, but record the affidavit with the town hall. So it would be in the hall of records, not registered. Recording and registering are two different things. Registering means handing over. Recording is just recording. Once you've done that, you go, fine. Then you've got your allodial. You haven't got your allodial title deed yet, but you've got an affidavit to base it on. Now, this is where people go wrong. A allodial title can never, ever be issued or granted to you. That is impossible. Because if something is issued or granted to you, the authority stays with the issuer or grantor. You have to do it yourself. You've got to create it. This is the first rule in commerce. For he who creates controls. So if you create it, you control it. Another man can't even touch it. So you create the deed. This is where people are going wrong. They're saying, oh, I've got to go land registry and get my deed. Good luck with that, because you ain't never going to get one. So now you can create your deed, which is an allodial title. An allodial title means you hold all the rights, all the interests, all the licenses thereof, full, complete, with no third party, no higher authority. Allodial title. It basically means, if you break the word down, allodial, it means all the local property or something. I'm a little bit fuzzy on that. It's been a while since I researched it, but the allodial actually has a hidden meaning why it's called allodial. I do write about it in one of my newest books. Once you've done that, the land is yours. Then you can place your name upon the land, and you would put your seal on your house, for example. You would put your flag up. So a flag is a warning to all other men to say that this land is taken. That's what a flag is. And a flag only has legal standing if it has a name backing the flag. That's what legal standing means. We know that. Legal standing, a man has to stand by it. If there's no living, breathing man standing by it, then it's got no legal standing. You only have law when you are alive. This is the thing with sovereign as well. People go sovereign state. What do you mean sovereign state? That's an oxymoron. There's such things as sovereign state. A state is a dead entity. If it's dead, it can't be sovereign. Only a living, breathing man or woman can be sovereign. So it's like saying sovereign citizen. You go, what? Sovereign citizen, slave to the city. And sovereign is obviously a man or woman with no higher authority. You have authority over your own life. So it's the language. Yeah. If people don't understand the language, then you will always lose. I'll just finish off on have a look at the deed that you think you have from land registry. Have a look what it says. First of all, it'll be Mr. Mr. Smith, and it'll be all written in all caps.
All
And it'll
caps,
be,
exactly.
and I bet you'll say statutory tenant or words to that effect.
And the other thing,
Tenant.
as well, it'll probably only have your signature on it, right?
Correct. There'll be no other signature at all.
So then there's zero contract.
Zero contract. Exactly. It's coming from a corporation. It's dead entity. It's because if there's no living, breathing man or woman, there's got to be two signatures on to make it a contract anyway. Now, a allodial title should only have one signature on it because it's not a contract.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can have witnesses on it. It's not a problem. You can have witness to it, but it will be yours because it's your declaration. So if you ask for an allodial title from land registry, there won't be a signature on it because how can there be? Because
so this, like, if we go back to like recent history,
yes.
settling the west coast of America, right? Go west, young man. What would they do when they got there? If they'd survived the arduous journey, they would stake out their land, right? They would stake their claim to their land.
Correct.
And then they would go to the local town hall or whatever the language is in America. Sorry if I'm getting this wrong. And record.
Yes.
Not register.
Correct.
You record on this date at this time. I paced out X amount of acres and banged in X amount of stakes on these points on the map. And there you go.
That's right.
My land.
Correct. And you'd put your coat of arms, your seal as well on it. I mean, this is the thing is because you have to have an estate. You've got to have a name. Because if you don't have a name, then how do I know you own it? So you've got to have proof of name. And this is why if you're the type, you've got to make a name for yourself. We're still using it today because a young boy, as he's growing up, he's supposed to make a name for himself. So he's supposed to have his name. Yeah, you can have your coat of arms from your father, but as a young man, as you have your own house, you'd have your own coat of arms. Yeah, you can link it to your father's coat of arms. It's not a problem at all because you'd be within a larger network of families. I am from the family of, but I have my own house and there's my coat of arms. Or seal or wax. If you look at the Japanese, they are all into the seals as well because they used to do seals and, it's all steeped in this cultural ID. In fact, you go back to the Egyptians, the same thing. Romans, the same thing. There's wax seals and all the rest of it. But it all starts with a symbol. And it's normally like a colour of, like the Scottish have their tartan colours of the family. So it's all historically cultural based and it's understood. So even if you're from another country, you could be from old ancient England, but you would understand the same culture in Japan. And you go, okay, that's the Japanese man's house. There's his seal. Might be slightly different, but we'd respect the seal, the color of, because you wouldn't break the seal because you would be trespassing upon the man's jurisdiction. So it's just forgotten. This isn't taught in schools. Everyone's bloody playing Xboxes now.
We talk exactly. And we talk about it a lot within the Bitcoin realm, dare I say?
Yes, Bitcoin.
Not community anymore. Dare I say that? I'm going to have to. Yeah. Anyway,
Bitcoin world.
But we say, listen, there's been an attack on the family. There's a systematic attack on the family, and a lot of us just think about like modern day divorce rates since 1971. You can all be linked. So much can be linked to fiat currency. So much of it, because it is so degrading. It is the most degrading idea on every level. It degrades society on every level, but it is the most degrading idea that these people, they just sit there and in their ivory towers laughing at us as we use these fiat currencies so we actually, like the sweat and equity that you're talking about, we're running around, we are working our asses off, we're providing value, we're inventing things, we're creating things, we are... And then we're using this piece of fucking shitty paper that isn't even money. It's so degrading. It's beyond degrading because, like you said, when you're talking about the Vatican, they don't use this stuff. Like to this stuff, it's just, oh my God, what, you get that away from me? Like, no, like gold to them is money, or land, obviously, estate, silver, that kind of stuff. And This is why now, Bitcoiners are finding Bitcoin. They're like, oh shit, there's a whole new game in town. And goodness knows who invented it. People will say it's the same people behind it, and you're falling into the trap and whatever else. Open for debate. Who knows? Sure, yeah. But right now, it's here, and it's an idea that whose time has come and is spreading and instigating conversations like this that we can now share across this medium to thousands of other people.
Yes.
So, all right, let's keep on the trigger train here. We've done. This is the classic. I love the WEF, right? By 2030 you'll own nothing and be happy. It's like yo, no, we're here right now and no one's happy. No one owns a fucking thing.
No one owns anything.
Fat. Everyone's sad, depressed, anxious. Suicide rates are through the freaking roof. Like that, they literally tell you what they're doing whilst pointing and laughing at you. So let's do voting, Pete, because it's kind of it's very analogous to what happens at birth, right? You enter a jurisdiction. So the campaign trail goes out, and you are, first of all, you're told you need to register at the local electoral, whatever it's called in your country. I mean, by the way, guys, this is global. Whoever's listening from whatever country right now, you are tricked into voting.
Yes.
And it means nothing.
Zero. Nothing. Because you've got to understand what a democracy is. So a lot of people, again, people without a house are tricked into believing a democracy is a good thing. No, it isn't. If you find yourself in another man's democracy, then he has control over you. Because you ask yourself this, the democracy that you find yourself in, did you create it? No. Can you choose what to vote on? No. Can you choose who to vote on? No. Can you choose when to vote on? No. Can you use your own paperwork to make your vote? No. So it ain't your democracy then, is it? So a sovereign never votes, he elects. And there's a difference. See, people have been twisted into thinking that voting means, you're voting an election. They go, no, that's not how it works. If I'm a sovereign, I elect, which means I point to someone and say, you, go and make me my cup of tea. I've elected you to do it. That's what the sovereign does. So if you vote, you are voting in someone else's jurisdiction. Democracy, that's what it means. So, yeah, it means democratic people. but we're going to, that's another rabbit hole. So, okay, modern day version. And we'll use the UK voting. It's the same. It doesn't matter what country it is. By the way, country's a corporation. It's not the land. Mm-hmm. So it's a corporate vote. And because you're a people and your title is a Mr., you have no say at all. You're not a shareholder of a corporation, so you have no say. So you'll fill out the form. So as we mentioned earlier, if you fill out a form, you're the informant, which means you're under the jurisdiction of the person who wrote said form. So you are now under their control. As you correctly mentioned as well, is that you will be required to use black ink. The black ink signifies is the debtor, all right? Because ink has meaning, or the color of ink has meaning. Black is debtor, blue is creditor. This is why if you write a mortgage contract, they'll ask you to sign in blue because you're the creditor, because you're actually creating or facilitating your own credit. And we haven't got time to do mortgages, but we will do that another day if you wish.
I know that one.
You did that. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So many people.
Okay. Voting. Laser away focus on voting.
You will just stay in the voting one, but yeah. And of course, you've got red. Red symbolizes the blood, and you've got purple, which is the sovereign, which is a mixture of the blue and the red, which is the blood and the blue, which means you're the creditor. So blue and red makes purple. So anyway, you've got these colors. So you're asked to sign in black. It means you're the debtor, lowest of the low. It'll say, ask for your title. It'll be Mr. It won't be Sir. It won't be Baron. It won't be so Mr. Lowest of the low. That's the lowest title there is on board ship, Mr. Then it'll say, write in capital letters. Anything written in capital letters. See, this is why people are illiterate, because you go, well, what language are we using? Because if I'm using English and I'm following the grammatical rules of English, if I write something in all caps on a document, that's an acronym. That means every letter stands for another hidden word, ASAP, as soon as possible. It's an acronym. So I go, why am I being asked to write in all caps? It makes no sense. It doesn't follow English. Well, that's because you're writing your title of your corporation. That's why it's all caps name. And it'll be in boxes. So you fill in the box. By the way, anything in a box is the four corners rule. So this is going back thousands of years to the rule of contracts. It stems from scrolls. In the olden days, a scroll was one piece of paper, and it could be very, very long. And you would hire one scribe, which would be a man who would write the contract for you in one font, in one style. Very important. So that's when only one person can write the contract.
Mm-hmm.
And the limitations of the contract stayed within the four corners of the scroll.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So anything outside of the four corners is not part of the contract. So the modern day version,
anything in bold or italics, we've all seen this before, right? You get let's go back to council tax bill.
Yes.
Part of it will be in a box, right? Yeah. You owe this, and it's all in bold. It might even be in caps, and it'll be in a box. So therefore, it's off the page.
Correct.
It's not part because it's not in the same font and it's not on the same page so that's very important for people.
Correct.
So go ahead.
Correct. That's the difference between an article and a legal document. So a legal document is written in one font, one script, one paper. An article is something you see in a magazine where you see kapow and all different colors. And that's artificial. That's what article means. Artificial. So it's not real. It's color of. So it's not a legal document. So so anyway, so the scroll. So this is where the four corners rule comes from. So anything today in a box, like you mentioned, is off the paper. Now, in modern day syntax and grammatical rules of a particular language, particularly English, there is symbolism. One of them is the square brackets. Okay, so if you see square brackets around a certain word, okay, that means it is not part of the original document and it has a different author. So it's technically off the paper, square brackets. That is the four corners rule. The reason why it's just brackets, it's just easier. Otherwise, you'd be trying to draw funny shaped boxes everywhere. So they just go square brackets. So that's what it means. So that means it's off the paper. So that's contract law. So you go back to voting. So straight away, everything's in boxes. And they'll ask you to sign. And they'll ask you to sign.
First of all, you are summoned to a particular place. Right?
Yeah.
Like it will be like the local council hall or town hall or whatever.
Yes.
You have to go to that. And again, as soon as you walk over that line, you are in a different jurisdiction.
Correct. 100% correct. You're getting it, my friend. You're getting it. That's why they do it. And they will say so. And they'll say it, the nearest council voting polling station. That's changed the jurisdiction. So if you're going to a school, it's not a school anymore. They've changed the jurisdiction and it's now the council's local voting station. Remember, it's not the building. It's jurisdiction. So you're absolutely right.
You're right. It is called a polling station, isn't it?
Polling station.
It's in the language. It's telling you. It's just right.
Telling you.
This okay, go on then. So I turn up, Mr. Johnny gets citizen, people, chattel, pleb, right? Thinking, and I'm going to stand there with all the other people, chattel, plebs, and thinking, is he going to vote left? Is he going to vote right? Like, eyeing each other up because we're being forced into division, which is what all part of the fucking thing is.
Yes.
Then I get in the queue. I go in through this door. It's this magic door into this mysterious world. I am now in a different jurisdiction. Yes. I've got to go and queue up behind a curtain, right?
Yes.
And what am I presented with? A piece of paper. So you might have triggered a few people earlier because you'd have said you do not have a choice of who to vote for.
Correct.
People don't realize it. Yes, I do. There's 4 names on a paper. I can choose one of those 4 people.
Yeah, one of those 4.
Right. It's not your choice.
It's not your choice.
You've
been given a selection.
Yeah. And 4 people, if you're lucky. In America, it's 2, right? Like it's just complete insanity. So you're there and you've got this name.
Yes.
I don't even know. Are they even in all caps? I wouldn't know. I haven't voted in God knows how long.
Yes, there probably will be. But here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. Now, obviously, it's slightly different in different countries, but in the UK, they will refer to your voting ward. Okay, it will say so on the card. So, voting ward. If you vote within a ward, then you have no authority of your own, and you're basically saying, "I don't know who to vote for." Now, there's a reason why they say put an X next to the person you want to vote for. Why is it an X? because the X is the signature of a simpleton.
Yeah.
That's what it means. So you're signing with an X, which means you filled out the rest of it. That signature that you wrote on the card isn't your signature for your vote. It's you signing on behalf of your corporation. That's what it's there for. So you're submitting a documentation of commerce. Because it's all corporate now. Mm-hmm. So you've signed it. It's your corporation. You've sent it in because you filled out your corporation's title, because it's all in all caps, like Tesla, written in all caps. That's your corporation. You sent that in, and you've signed it as a simpleton, saying, "I don't know who to vote for at all, so you choose for me." So the council will go, "Okay, fine, we'll pick them. We'll choose."
Mate, when I learned that, it kind of it. What's the word I'm looking for? It validated a gut feeling, I suppose, because you're always trying to figure out what's going on behind the curtain. Yes. Like the Wizard of Oz. Like yes. And voting just being this hot. You exposing voting as a complete sham, and like the X as well in the box.
In the box,
like it just,
you gotta laugh sometimes. It's like,
you have to laugh. You do have to laugh because. Yeah. You could get in a very, very dark place, but like,
yes,
they literally are. The mockery is on another level.
It really
it's on. It's beyond degrading. Like,
it is.
I can't. So the people that know this, I wonder if
their heads off. Did you see that? What was it, Matt? What was that politician? He was Matt Summit. In the COVID nonsense and the lockdowns. Hancock. And they were. Remember when they did the first patient to take the, they called him Shakespeare. It was Mr. Shakespeare or something. His last name was Shakespeare.
No.
And they called him Patient 2B. And Matt Hancock was being interviewed, and he was like, he couldn't hold it back. He was so laughing at people, and he was trying to make it. Oh, I'm crying because it's right. And he was laughing. You got to look. You got to look it up. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere.
I'll have to.
I mean, I couldn't believe it, because I'm telling you, the people who run the system, which is the Crown Council of the 13, they've got an evil sense of humor, and they're just doing this for fun. And they're just taking the mick out of everybody and say, get them to wear 2 masks, get them to wear 3 masks, get them to follow arrows painted on a wall, on a floor, or something like that.
How far can we get a cotton bud up there freaking noses?
Yes.
Like, it's unbelievable, mate. Like, so hang on. What did you just say there? The 13?
Crown Council of the 13.
Crown Council of
the 13. Now, this is the 13 bloodlines, and this is as deep as I can go with the research, and some of it is extrapolated. By the way, I mean, some of the stuff I talk about is extrapolation. Okay, so you have to. It's like some of the stuff I research. Yeah, it's absolutely rock solid. You can go and look it up for yourself. Some of it is an extrapolation where you can say, okay, what's missing? It's like when you look at a jigsaw puzzle of an elephant, but all the pieces aren't there, but you can still tell it's an elephant. Extrapolate. So I can extrapolate. So
don't trust, verify, Pete. That's the motto of the listeners right here. So they'll be all over that. I'm sure they're going to go off and find their own ways. But so don't Crown Council of 13. Right. Yeah. Okay. So
the Crown Council of 13 is it's Italian families, and it's 13 families, and they are 13 separate bloodlines, and they hold the shares, if you like, or they have the controlling interest of the biggest corporation on the planet, and it's called the Crown Corporation. And the Crown Corporation is where all other corporations are registered to, including countries. Because remember, a country is a corporation. I know a lot of people talk about BlackRock, Vanguard, and all their little fishes. They're tiny, because they are registered. So it's registered business. Vanguard, go and look it up. It's a registered business. Well, if it's a registered business, it means there's a corporation higher up that actually owns it.
Yeah.
So yes, the Crown Council of the 13. Underneath that, there's supposed to be the Council of the 300, which is sort of very high up people who've got influence. I think Putin might be one of them. And then underneath that, you've got another sub council of 3,000 people that are the big players. The ones who are out there on social media that everyone's heard about. Bill Gates and all that, Elon Musk and all that sort of stuff. And they're the controllers. So they're the ones. Well, they don't control; they manipulate. By the way, everyone, don't panic. They don't control anything. It's manipulation.
Mhm.
Okay, this is how the devil works. He doesn't have power. He doesn't control anything. He's not allowed to. God would step in, but he can manipulate you. So the system itself is just a manipulation. So as
And
soon
that's
as you
where like
realize,
the Club of Rome would sit there as well, right? The
yeah, it's all Vatican based.
yeah.
I mean, it's like the Pope. Current Pope would be in the Council of the 300, for example.
Mm.
But they are under the orders of. It's like it's suspected that the Rothschilds are in the Crown Council,
Mhm.
not the Crown Council. Sorry, the Council of the 300. If you know them, if you know their name and you recognize them, then they're not part of the Crown Corporation because the people at the very top, you do not know who they are.
No.
So it's like I
I
say, it's an
mean,
extrapolation.
the names we bump up against Rothschilds,
Yes,
Rockefeller,
yes.
um,
Morgan Stanley,
bad Bill Gates,
Bill
all the
Gates,
WEF people, and all of that. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
Klaus Schwab.
bad, but like just they're lackeys themselves.
Correct.
They're they've probably got a lot of crap on them. They're being blackmailed. They're being puppeteered in certain ways, and people think Elon owns Twitter. Like, no, he don't.
No, he don't. It's registered business. He doesn't own a. He doesn't own a thing. He doesn't own his cars, his house, or nothing. He's a billionaire. No, he ain't. He doesn't even. He doesn't even own the billions. Remember, this has got what? What's this called? What's it got on there? It's got Bank of England written on it. Where is it? There you go. Look, Bank of England
Yep.
says so, right? That means it's owned by the Bank of England. It ain't mine. It ain't
Mm-hmm.
mine. I'm the holder of it. That's what holder means. I can hold it. Not mine.
And here's so this is people are going to love this one. The color of money.
Yes.
Let's bring this back to Bitcoin and why Bitcoin is different to fiat currency. And I think it was in this book, the UCC Connection. I'm sure you're Howard Freeman. I think it was derived from his work. And he was talking about like another way that we've been tricked into living under this web of administrative deceit and legal nonsense is that we've been tricked into using the color of money because it's not real money, it's fiat currency. And what we're doing when we use it, we are using a privilege bestowed upon us by those that created it to discharge debt, not settle it.
Correct.
And I want people to really grasp onto that for 1 second. You go out to a bar, to a restaurant, to a cafe, you go and have a nice steak meal, you have a cigar in the lounge afterwards, whatever, and you pay at the end, you are using their fiat currency that they have given you the privilege to use to discharge a debt. The person that you are paying, you're not settling the debt. That person that's provided all of that service to you is just completely mocked and disregarded with the form of payment, whether it's pounds or dollars or yen or euros, and whether it's your card or whether it's the cold hard cash. People still think, oh, cash is king, whatever. It's the color of money. It's not real. And this is why so many of us are being drawn to this idea of Bitcoin to be immutable. It's, hard capped 21 million. We all know the issuance schedule. For those that have been down the rabbit hole and looked, and it's really this is why we see so much hope when Bitcoin when people come to Bitcoin and they start unraveling. It's like, okay, shit, right now I do have hope because I do have something to pass down to my family. If I've got it on my hardware wallet and I've taken self-custody, I have a Lloydal title over that. It's not to say they're not going to come after it. Of course, they're going to try, whether that's taxation or just full-on violence. Who knows?
World, they might know their Bitcoin, which is fine. Unfortunately, they do not understand the world of finance. Some of them might do, but most don't. And they definitely do not understand the system of commerce that you're discovering. And they certainly do not know how to read. So they will have their legacy coin taken from them and they won't know why. So the thing with BTC version or the paper version, which is a title you do not own. Like if we just touch on the stock market, right? If you've got any stocks or in any way, shape, or form, if you've got a paper asset, remember what I spoke about paper before, you're just a holder of it. You don't own it. Okay. So if you've got the paper version, which is BTC, that's a derivative of Bitcoin. Now, if you are if you know your stuff and you know about Bitcoin, then you know an app, and then your Bitcoin is on an app, because I don't trust any of that. So if you want to buy actual Bitcoin, first of all, you've got to make sure it's original stuff, and you need your own wallet that you have. And then you will see the transfer from someone who's got the original legacy Bitcoin and then transfers it to you. It appears in your wallet. Yes, I now have it. Not a problem. That's how it should be done. Now, if a taxman gets in contact with you and says, you purchased £10,000 worth of BTC, you don't spot that, then yeah, you are obligated to pay tax on that because it's BTC. BTC is a legal title. It's a derivative contract. You've got to pay You've got to pay tax on that because you don't own that title. I know we don't have time to go into titles. Maybe we can cover this another day. Names and titles, because this is a thing that the average person has no clue. We touched on it with a audio title and land registry, and obviously, if you register your car, you're the legal registered keeper. But yes, so you've got to be careful of the language. So it's, for example, it's like in America, I know there's a lot of people out there talking about Second Amendment. And well, that doesn't protect you from owning firearms. Okay, because the Second Amendment it's within the Constitution. But if you find yourself within another man's Constitution, you're under his rule, and it also means that he can take that away. It's a privilege. So it's all in, because I was going, how can the United States of America have 20,000 laws on the book regarding guns and restriction of guns when there's supposed to be a Second Amendment saying shall not be infringed? Well, if you understand commerce and you understand legalese, then the politicians who've got these 20,000 rules on the books have not violated a single thing, and they've not even violated the Second Amendment. So what they'll do, remember, you don't even own your guns, because what have you got on your gun? It's a serial number, isn't it? If it's a serial number, there will be a document out there that relates to the serial number, which is called the manufacturer's statement of origin, and it'll be under the control of the one holding said document. If you find anything with a serial number on it, you don't own it. So,
and that goes for all of our things, though.
Everything. That's your TV, your laptop. Your phones. By the way, you know when you switch your laptop on, what does it say? Input username. You're the user of it.
Yeah,
it ain't yours, mush.
So right, okay. I did promise that we would do the Liberty, the Statue of Liberty, and you just
touched on that
with Constitution. Yes, it's a document written by other people, which can be changed anytime. Yes. By the
how many amendments are there?
Goodness knows. But
that's what it means. Amendment, changing the contract.
So,
Second Amendment. I mean, come on, people. Anyway,
liberty.
Right. Liberty and freedom. Got to learn the difference. Very, very critical. Freedom is a contraction of two words. Word freedom and dominion. You can learn this as a man. Dominion. I have dominion. I have law. My law in my dominion. I say so. So, too many beta males out there can't even do that. So, man has dominion. I am free in my dominion. And that means no one has authority over me. They can't tell me what to do. I can do whatever I want in my dominion. It's my dominion. Freedom, that's what it means. Liberty is privileges and allowances issued to you from a higher authority. And I'll give you an example. It comes from maritime law. In fact, it's actually religious-based. It comes from the ancient goddess called Libertas. And Libertas was supposed to be a forgiving god and didn't impose too many restrictions on the followers. All right. But it's still a religion. So the followers are still subject to the goddess Libertas. But she was a fair goddess, and she would allow the people to have plenty of liberties. That's where it comes from. Libertas, liberties. And it's used in maritime law. So in maritime law, you probably hear the Liberty Bell.
Mm-hmm.
You go, what's Liberty Bell? On the ship, the crewmen are under the rule of the captain. The captain is in control, and the crewmen must follow the rules of the ship. When the Liberty Bell is rung, that means the crewman can leave the ship and have a little bit of freedom. We'll allow you to go out and play, little Billy. You can go and play with your friends. But when you hear that bell again, you better get back on board ship, because now your freedom is over. Your liberty is over. Do your job.
Same in schools.
Same in schools. Exactly right. Ringing the bell. Little Billy, go out and play. Now you got to come back in when the bell rings again. So liberty means you've been given allowances and privileges from a higher authority. That's what it means. And it can only apply to American citizens. So an American citizen is a legal title. Citizen means slave to the city. It's literally what it means. A city, by the way, is not the bricks, it's not the buildings, it's not the taxis, it's not the... A city is a corporation, a corporate jurisdiction placed upon all that stuff. That's what a city is. So citizen means you're slave to the city. You're under the rule of the city. And it's liberty is given to American citizens, which is a legal title operating in the corporation United States of America. So it's like employees. For example, if you go and work for McDonald's, you will be given certain liberties and you'll get a free Big Mac. You don't have to pay. It's a nice little liberty you get. And just to finish, because the people at the system have a twisted, sick sense of humor, they put a giant statue there called Statue of Liberty, and there's a chain link on one of her feet. Remember, you're chained. You just got liberty. Sorry, Americans.
Yeah, I know. I've been learning about there's two United States of America, right? There's the federal one, and
you've got the United States of America, and then you've got the United States.
Right, that's right.
So those two are different, and of course you've got the individual states, so 50 states, and each one of those has its own rules. So yeah, it's a complicated mess over there. You've got federal law, and you've got state law, depending on the state. So, but they're all corporate jurisdictions.
Oh, that's all it boils down to. It's all just corporate jurisdiction.
That's what it is.
Commercial law, absolutely everything, including you, because you are a walking company. You just didn't realize it.
Correct.
All right. Last thing then, Pete, and we're going to have to do a round two because there's still so much more to cover, and it's been good fun. These three, we've mentioned them. We have Vatican.
Yes.
In Rome over here in Italy. We have in the United States, we have Washington, D.C.
Yes.
And in Great Britain over here, we have London.
Yes.
Three very important centers. I don't know what to call them. What do you call them?
Right. Well, this stems back it's very complicated, but yeah. So the way I see it, Vatican is the banker, the City of London. You got London City and City of London. So so you guys, well, what am I talking about?
Yeah.
So it's basically the central bit in the very core, right? Which is, sometimes even I forget, City of London, I think. If I've got that wrong, it could be London City. Sometimes I forget which is which, but I'm pretty sure it's City of London. Yeah. But that is the one that controls finance. So they're controlling the insurance. By the way, little nugget of truth: everyone self-insures. So so we can get into that another day. That's when we dig deeper into this system of commerce and credit and debt. And then you've got the Washington, and they seem to be the army, the threats. So, also, the Vatican controls all world religions. Now, this goes back thousands of years to the great three tribes, and each tribe had its own color. One was red, one was white, one was blue. So what happened was
the flags.
That's right. Those colors are in the flags today. That's where these colors come from. And it was determined that these three great tribes used to fight each other, and thought, let's stop doing this. Let's actually split the resources, and then we can control the people of the world. So it's red, white, and blue. I think one was war, one was religion, and one was commerce, which is all finance stuff. So that was separated. So the three tribes, they had their own little piece to control. And that's, going back thousands and thousands of years. This is like almost a myth at this point. But that, even today, like you said, all the flags today will have some form of red, white, or blue within the colors. And it comes from that. So, but yeah, that's what it is today. Red, white, and blue. And you've got the Holy Trinity, if you like, the three branches, which is the Vatican, London City, or the City of London, and of course, Washington. There's other little chapters in there as well, because you've got customs and excise. The royal family, the British royal family, run all the taxes in the world. That's their job. And at the moment, the Federal Reserve is running the global world reserve currency. So that's their job at the minute. So yeah.
Well, I don't know. If you build a system on lies, deceit, murder, pedophilia, criminal activity, don't be surprised when it comes crumbling down. So, there's only so long this can. What's your hope, Pete? Because
Right.
how do we lift ourselves up and leave it on a good note, and then
Okay.
we'll talk about your project and how people can find you.
No worries at all. Yes. Now, when I set up the Sovereign Project, it was to reach out to other sovereign men because I didn't know any at the time, and women, but obviously dominantly men because you are the protectors, and to help people become sovereign as well. That's what the Sovereign Project was set up. Now, it all depends on a certain thing. If there's enough men left, and I'm doubting that, if there are, then we can stop this and we can steer the entire world into a nice, peaceful, rich, enjoyable place to live. If there's not enough men, then it's dystopian hell for everybody eating. Well, not for me. I know what I'll be doing. I'm got my plan. But for most people, it's going to be cricket burgers and forced vaccines and all the rest of it. But it's up to the men. So the men have to stand up and I don't mean petition. I don't mean protest because only children do that. You've got to stop doing this. Stop making excuses. You've got to stop asking the government, oh, please leave me alone. I can't afford that. No. Man is supposed to say, I'm not putting up with this. I'm putting my foot down. I'm saying no. Look, put it this way. If there was enough men on this planet, do you think you would have drag queens, men dressed up as women, talking in front of 5-year-olds in schools discussing stories based on sex and pedophilia? Would you think that would happen if men existed today? No.
Absolutely not.
Would not. The idea of that wouldn't even exist. And that's what I mean. There's not enough men left. If there's enough men and we all stand up and we say no, I've got to do my bit, you do your bit. Everyone watching this, if every man says, I'm not putting up with this. So if I'm receiving council tax or whatever, I went, where's the bit? Where's the contract? When did I agree to this? It's like the farmers out there. A lot of them are panicking over inheritance tax. All you've got to do is go, when did I agree to this inheritance tax? Right? And start challenging these weasels that operate in government. They are weasels. They've got no strength. They're not brave in any way because they hide behind paperwork they won't even sign. That's how weaselly they are.
That is the most disgusting thing. Anyone listening now, go get your tax bill, your council tax bill. There's no signature on it. Not even a mass printed one.
No.
They can't even go that far. It's just like literally mass send out all of this paperwork and watch the freaking shekels come rolling back in.
Yes. And there's not enough people standing up. That's what I'm hoping.
So for the protests as well, I think it's very important because a lot of people are going to be like, no, we need to get in the streets. We've got to have our voices heard. The way I see it now is, no, you're validating them.
Correct.
You've turned up, 200,000 people have turned up down Pall Mall to go and you are validating what they are asking you to do by recognizing it.
Correct. You've accepted the obligation. I mean, it even goes deeper than this because remember we're running out of time here, but this is commerce. And what actually is going on is that the government sell these bills, the legislation, like ULEZ. So this is, I'll briefly explain how it works. So let's say the government, which is a corporation, wants to make some money. They will come up with a new bill. Let's say ULEZ. And let's say that the ULEZ is going to generate...
For global listeners, this is the... You can't enter London now for some reason if you've got a diesel car or something. They've got a camera there that's going to capture number plate and then send you a bill. I can't remember what ULEZ stands for.
Yeah, ultra low emission zone. So yeah. Now, if you even fall for that, honestly, these globalists are so taking a piss. But if you fall for that, that's on you. So the government comes out with ULEZ, ultra low emission zone, which is all completely fraudulent. But it's going to generate £100 billion, say, over the next 10 years. But the government wants that money now. So what they do is they create the paperwork, they create the bill, and they sell it to a bank. And they say to the bank, Do you want to buy this? We'll sell it to you for 10 billion, but it's going to make you 100 billion over 10 years. And the bank will say, well, hang on a minute. How do I know that the people have accepted this bill? And then Khan or whatever says, well, they're outside protesting. And that's it.
Huh.
That's it. So, oh, fine, not a problem then, yeah. And then, of course, they can sell the bill.
What about the guys cutting them down?
Well, I understand where they're coming from, but technically that's a violation of commerce.
Yeah, but by cutting them down, are they not violating their existence as well? Like,
yes, they are. They're accepting the obligation. So what they're doing is they're accepting the obligation of the ULEZ, yeah. And of course, they're violating commerce because they're cutting it. The act of cutting it down is a violation of the contract that they've just agreed to. But I'm not. By the way, I'm not bashing these guys because I get what they're doing.
No, of course.
You know,
I mean, people are being pushed, right?
I know they're pushed to the edge. You just got to think smarter.
Hmm.
All you got to do is go, well, hang on a minute. When did I agree to this ULEZ? As soon as you challenge it, that's it.
Here's where we got to be careful, because the message is if there were enough men and if enough men were to stand up. Now these guys that are going around, and for those listening, the cameras are on like lampposts maybe, or traffic light poles that are capturing these registration plates. Plates.
There they go. There you go.
And the fines get sent out, and the poor bastard he just ends up paying the 50 quid just to let the paperwork go away, blah, blah, blah. Now, a lot of people say, yes, look, there's a real man. He's out there taking action, cutting these things down. But what you're saying is, no, that's not being a real man is just not validating it.
Correct.
Using correct paperwork to challenge it.
Yes.
Getting smart.
Yes.
And I think that's got to be the underlying message here. It's like, this isn't about let's get in the freaking streets with pitchforks and torches. That doesn't solve anything.
No, don't do that at all. What I want people to do is deal with this on their own, within their own authority, using their own paperwork. And all you got to do is send off notices to these politicians. It's like 15-minute cities. It's so easy. You can just knock that over tomorrow. All you have to do is you send a notice to your local politician, not your local politician, but the politician who's operating in your area. Say, I do believe it's come to my attention that your corporation is intending to put restrictions on certain roads where I live. Well, I hereby serve notice upon you that will be a violation of my right to travel, and I shall sue you for £10,000 per infraction if you choose to go down this course of action.
And that's sent directly to the person.
Correct.
To the person.
By the name.
By their name.
By their name.
On registered post.
Yes, with their stamp with the king's head on. Using Royal Mail in a solid envelope without a window.
Mm-hmm. And
you send it off, and there's your notice. And then once you've given notice, if they don't respond, they've acquiesced and agreed to the notice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's done. And then when you're driving down the street, if they put one of those planters there and it says, you can't go, so all right, fine, okay, I'll take a picture of that. There's my video. That's violation of my right to travel. And now I sue the MP. Now, if an individual does that, he's got a big fight on his hands and he might win. However, 2 million people do it. Now you're getting the picture, because it's game over at that point. That politician's going to leg it. If you've got 2 million letters through the post saying, look, if you violate my right to travel, I'm coming after you from proper men, and I mean it, then he's got, oh, okay, I've gone too far. Yeah, you have gone too far. So that's how you deal with it. You've got to be a man, and you've got to, do it under your name, be, under your authority.
How can people learn more about it then, Pete? Obviously, you've got something going on here, which I've been going through. I recommend it highly. It's been life-changing the last 3 months, but you've probably heard the words coming out of my mouth, that, how I've been switched into seeing all of this. Obviously, we have your book, The System. You have other books. You've got your Sovereign Project handbook, which anyone can just download.
Yes.
And here's right. I think this is an important thing to push home as well. In like the world of Bitcoin, we've got like 20,000 other crypto projects that are pushing snake oil all over the place.
They are.
It's going to be the same with this subject as it would be the same with water filtration freaking companies or whatever. We can remove fluoride. Like you've got to pick through the debris. So what do you say to people that might be thinking, well, who's this dude? He's come out of nowhere. He's selling a course or he's selling a book. He's got an agenda to push. That's the usual kind of.
Oh, I'm a shill.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yes, I've heard it all. Well, like you mentioned earlier, the information that I speak about is free. So when I set up the Sovereign Project, I had two things. The membership will always be free, it's free to join, and the information itself will be free to download. And it is there, it's all there. Yes, there is an online course. Now, the online course was through demand because we had so many emails saying, "Oh, do you do this online? Do you do it online?" And we got so many, and we said, "All right, then, and we'll do it online." So it was responding to the free market. So that's why we do the online course, and we've got the books because people said, "Well, do you do it in book form?" Because they didn't want to download it all. I went, "Okay, we'll do books then." So obviously, this is my system, which you've got the original one there.
Yeah.
This is the new version where I've tidied up all the spelling mistakes. So I apologize for the typos and spelling mistakes. And then I've got a couple more. So this is delving deeper into the system. And this one is the book version of the handbook, which tells you about notices and affidavits and all that sort of stuff. So all this information is free to download. We do online courses. We've got workshops operating all over the world. We've got chess clubs. We've got a global network that is expanding daily. People
So the chess clubs, just let's not wash over that because people might be thinking, right, I want to get head to head with someone. And this is something that you've set up with the people that are coming to you. They get this knowledge and then they want to share it.
Yes.
They want to find like-minded. It's like any Bitcoiner is going to relate to this. You find Bitcoin, the money's fucked. This is a great fix. I now speak about it all of the time, but you're lonely because nobody else wants to even bother. Go down the rabbit hole. I'm busy. I'm running on the hamster wheel. I've got kids to look after, blah, 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 bills to pay. Guess what? You don't. But, so what are the chess clubs?
Yes. So just touch on the workshops. The workshop is a professional presentation that's done usually once an evening. And it will go through everything that we talked about, the 22-week course. So that's where you can go to someone like live. You'll be in an audience. So that's a workshop. A chess club is a little bit more casual. This is where you can go and discuss this stuff with other people. So you're not alone anymore. You're not alone. You can discuss remedies, dealing with council tax, debt collection, all this sort of stuff, and share knowledge and help each other today. To work together. So that's what a chess club is. But that's all volunteers. So the people who run our workshops and chess clubs have volunteered to do so. There's very similar to yourself. They learn this stuff and go, I need to tell people this. And that's why they go off and do the chess clubs and the workshops and they spread the word. So yes, we've got quite a few of those set up. We've got members in 75 countries now. So we are huge. I mean, the Sovereign Project is absolutely expanding. We've got events all throughout the summer that I'll be speaking at. I'm writing some new courses because we've got the 22-week course. We've got the advanced course, which goes into some of the Unum Sanctum stuff. And I'm writing 2 new courses. I think it will be 2. And we will get really deep into the system and talk about all the remedies.
And you got a conference coming up?
Oh, yeah, there is. Yeah. On the 10th of August, there will be the Sovereign Conference. It normally sells out within a couple of weeks. Because it's limited. It's only 200 tickets, and that's it. So
where is it?
It will be in the Midlands, just outside of Leicester.
Okay, 10th of August, right?
10th of August.
Head to the website to go and check that out.
Yes. What you can do is you can enroll your interest. So if you're interested in a ticket, leave your email address, and you'll get first refusal before the tickets go live because there's not enough tickets. So.
And we've got. We have Bitcoin Ireland coming up in 23rd, 24th of May. And Carl from the Sovereign Project. Sovereign Carl is going to come over and give a 30 to 45-minute little presentation of all this kind of stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing that. We definitely need to merge these 2 ideas and these 2 groups of people because there's a lot here. My gosh.
Well, you've got to merge Bitcoin, sovereignty, freedom, commerce, and learning how to read for the first time in your life. You've got to do all of that. For those who want to put the work in, it is worth it, though.
Oh, it totally is. Pete, once I've released this, we'll see what people want to learn more about, and perhaps we'll set one up to do another deep dive in 3 or 4 months' time. And I really look forward to it and get to hopefully I get to meet you in person soon at one stage. But thank you for everything that you've done. I know this was like you had like a knee-jerk reaction to 2020, and you stepped up and you basically created all of this. You're helping tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people around the world. And yeah, hats off to you. Thank you. It's well done.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Cheers, brother. Take care.